It's going to be a very busy year for the Tokyo Stock Exchange with the market reform coming up next April. Companies are just starting to find out what section they can list in the new listing structure. Do you think this reform is enough to revitalize the Japanese market? And would the TSE consider additional listing requirement changes beyond next April?
I think our overall goal is to build up the market of choice for domestic and overseas investors and the listed companies and also other market users. It's very important to remember that this market reorganization is not the final one. This is just the first step to transform TSE to become the market of choice.
The TSE recently established a panel to discuss whether or not to extend trading hours. What feedback have you heard from stakeholders and investors so far? Do you think these changes are likely, and if so, when? And what would be the challenges to making trading hours longer?
I think we started this discussion at the working group last month. And there were many variety of opinions have been raised by the members, and largely about the impact of an extension on the processes that are carried out after the trading ends, such as setting up base price for investment trusts. And I don't know how long we will extend this time. However, I feel that the trading hour extension looks more realistic than the last time we discussed.
So recently, Taiwan's APR Group listed in the mother section of the TSE. What will the TSE do to attract more overseas companies to list in Japan? And in the near term, how does TSE plan to compete with overseas exchanges?
IPO market at TSE has been strong the last few years. And also the TSE mothers market are being highly rated especially by the Asian startups. As you know, Japan has a very stable democratic government, and also our regulation is also very stable. And we have Japanese economy is the third largest in the world, with the 2,000 trillion yen worth of financial assets held by individuals. And the TSE is such a fair and open market with ample liquidity and high PR. You don't have any other markets like this in Asia. With that background, we have been promoting IPO business among Asian companies, targeted those cross-border companies, what we call cross-border companies. And the cross-border companies have three types. One is those companies based abroad. The second one is those companies originally based abroad, but re-established itself in the Japanese company. And the third case is that those Japan-based company with foreign-born CEOs. And from the beginning of this year, we have been all of those three types of cross-border companies listing IPOs in Japan. We have so far, as of today, we have 16 cross-border companies listed on TSE, and we have a couple more in our pipeline this year. I believe that the TSE listing is the optimal way for cross-border companies to improve their market cap or corporate value. So we will continue to work on people in IPO business in Asia to continue promotion.
The biggest corporate news right now is, of course, about Toshiba and how it worked together with the Japanese government to influence the shareholder meeting. Could you tell us what you think about this issue and whether or not the TSE is considering any measures against this problem?
Obviously, we have been watching the Toshiba situation very carefully, especially since the independent report came out about the last year's AGM. And obviously, if this Toshiba issue has the negative impact over the flow of investment by overseas investors, that's not good for the Japanese capital markets. So from the prospect of JPX, we strongly request that Toshiba discloses appropriately and also promptly any information needed by shareholders or investors those such as information related to the unfairness of last year's AGM or who's responsible for what.